Welcome to the Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today, so tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, it's actually not really a whole lot of news. In fact, it's actually kind of a quiet week for Sea of Thieves. There's not a whole lot going on, so I wanted to talk about some of the things that I think we should hopefully be getting into in the near future. It is post year 5 anniversary, and I'm left thinking, what's next? All that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. But before I get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They are the ones that went over to patreon.com/Keelhauled Podcast to support this content and more. And by the way, I have a quick question, because for a long time, I've had the value for the Patreon, part of it being the ad-free version. I really want to get away from that. I really don't like ads in podcasts, and I have enough support now that I feel like I can take care of the costs of the podcast without needing to have the ad revenue generation from it. So I'm looking to get away from that. I'm looking to try and get everyone on the ad-free version, and I need the patrons to give me their feedback on that. So I have a post that's in the Patreon website. So if you head over to the website, there is a poll there. It's good for the next 6 days. I would love to get just a quick 5 minutes of your time to take a look at it, vote on it, so I have an idea if that is a value add for you that you look forward to. Would that impact your support, things like that? Because I want to know if that's important to you. Otherwise, if it's not, then I'll take the ads out of the show in general, because they aren't helping nearly as much as they ought to. I'm not getting the support that I thought I would with them, and I'm hoping to keep control of the podcast where I have it published. I like having this kind of control because I do these late night episodes from time to time, and I hate bugging other people for this kind of stuff. So I want to keep the autonomy. I want to keep it ad free, and the patrons are helping do that. So if that works out for you all, fantastic. But I want to shout out to the people that are Patreons right now, because they are the ones that are making this ad free for everyone in the future, and I want to keep it that way. So thank you to People's Republic, LQ'd, Balls, Bam Bam Bagel, Captain Hasco, Chateau Noof, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cloud, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mir, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Fergatron, Godhammer 6, Trickster, Jabaro 5, Jorby Jorbs, Carl Embo, Kazia the Aficionado, Nightstar, Lumpy SRQ, Evil Morpheus, XboxMik29, Murphy Lives, Mutinous Max, Raja the Brave, Registella, Replicated Flame, Rustbelt Kid, Norwegian, Skamelt 666, Captain Dasm, Captain Chonky, TN Professor, Real Big Tuna, Big Bad Pat, Meanafaerie, Captain J Rat of the Flaming Cold Sore, the Lore Chronologist Deadeye Dre, Hager Owl, Jeff H, Ghostboy 20, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Windsor Chris, and Zam Wow. Thank you all so much for your support. It really does help, and it means the world to me. It's going to help out a lot in the future too. So thank you. With that, let's get into the podcast. First up on today's docket, let's talk about some of the time-sensitive stuff that hopefully you all had an opportunity to get this weekend. So I can't remember, and I may have to apologize to you right here and now, that I don't remember talking about this in a past episode. I feel like I did bring up the fact that Sea of Thieves was having Twitch drops this weekend. But with last episode being with Miles Dompierre, which was a great episode, please go back and listen to that if you want. I think it really did touch on a couple points about how Sea of Thieves needs to get some flashy, mainstream worthy content out for this summer so that we can really get some good attention on the quality and the state of Sea of Thieves as a whole. I loved having a good conversation with him, and I've got a really good interview that I'm looking forward to recording in the future for this month as well too. So look out for that. Also, just a quick reminder, while I'm thinking about it, the actual Gold Hoarder episode for this month is going to be on the 22nd I don't remember if that is the normal month that it would be. I think it is because it's the last Monday on the 24th that we'll have. And the following weekend is going to be my 10-year anniversary to my wife. So I will probably be very busy that weekend. I don't think I'm actually going to be doing anything other than celebrating with her, with just going out and having a nice decade together as a married couple. I'm very excited about that. So kind of a weird thing to bring up on this, but just to give you all a bit of a heads up as to what's going on in my life. But with the Sea of Thieves Twitch drops that happened this week, hopefully you all remembered. Hopefully you all have your automatic Twitch installed into your Chrome browser or some sort of better TV Chrome extension or some extension on some browsers so that you managed to get your drops, because we got the Eastern Winds Sapphire clothing. This is 4 pieces of it. It was the peg leg, the hook, the jacket, and I think it was the shirt as well too. So hopefully you all managed to get those this weekend. I would hate for you to not have an opportunity to get your hours in. Again, it was 4 hours. You had to claim each drop at the end of each hour to be able to get the next one. This set, honestly, with the motif that they're going with, it is really nice. I do like the silver and sapphire. I think it's a much more apt description than the Emerald Winds one was, but I like this a little bit better. And I'm kind of curious what the set after this is going to be, because I know that we're going through this new recolor, and they've kind of designated the Eastern Winds set as kind of the Twitch drops for the time being. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, if folks are still engaging with this. I know a lot of us, we want to get the drops for the sake of actually just having drops. So, like many of us just want the cosmetics, even if we're not going to use them, because we don't want to miss out on having the opportunity to actually collect them, right? So very curious to hear some folks' thoughts. And it brought me up, brought up a question that I saw on Twitter that actually came from Fuzzy Bond. And I wanted to kind of throw this out there because it was a bit of a contentious tweet from them. And I respect Fuzzy Bond, and I agree with his statement on this, but I wanted to bring it up to everyone else because it really did kind of make me question, what is it to Sea of Thieves community members for you to be kind of engaging with streams for this content? Like, is this what you'd like to do? Like, are you looking to go and engage with a streamer to get your drops, or are you just putting on a stream for the sake of actually, getting the cosmetics, and you don't really care who you're watching? Because Fuzzy Bond put out a tweet on the 6th, which I believe was just before the drops actually went out. And his tweet says, by doing a quote unquote AFK Twitch drops stream when you were not actively there, it is only and I think he means this a little bit differently, but it is only disrespectful to other streamers that are awake and trying to make it through. And I could be misinterpreting this, but I feel like I want to clarify just a little bit. He makes an interesting point out there, that there are streamers that do AFK streams. They're either sleeping or they're not doing anything, but they're doing something, and they tend to do it during like a subathon, because they're generally going for a long period of time. And in that time, they are typically doing something like sleeping, like they still have the stream going, but they're not actively doing anything there. And I'm very curious about this because it's an interesting thing, and I wanted to know what people think about this, because with Twitch drops, the goal there is to discover content creators, to try and drive people to go to Twitch who may not normally, for the sake of cosmetics, and in doing so maybe find a content creator that they like or that they've enjoyed through raids and through participating, and start to help kind of build up that audience. It's something that I'm not actively working on because I generally don't stream. For whatever reason, I just don't feel like when I have my time for gaming, I don't feel like I want to be like working, if that makes sense. Like I already work 40 hours a week. I feel like I want to kind of relax most of the time. And streaming is something I like to do with my friends to kind of have B-roll footage for the YouTube version. But I'm curious how people feel about AFK streams. When you're going into a stream for Twitch drops for Sea of Thieves content, are you going to content creators that you know? Are you checking out new content creators that are in the partner program? And how do you feel about AFK streams? Because for me personally, unless you're doing like a 24-hour stream or like a 48-hour stream, there are people out there that plan accordingly. So what they'll do is they have their stream. They'll stream for as long as they possibly can, and then while they're sleeping, what they'll do is they will either rerun the stream that they just did to give people an opportunity to watch it again, or they'll have someone that they know come in and stream on their channel for them during the time that they're actually going to be sleeping. So they kind of cover it, and that way you're kind of getting a different peek at another content creator that is local, that can come by and hang out and chat with people and still engage in the content. Because I think at the end of the day, as a streamer, many of them are there to put on a show per se, and I don't mean to be disingenuous to anyone that is there just to engage with people, to have community and to have a connection. You know, not everyone is trying to be an actor or an actress in the streaming community, but it brings up an interesting point with Twitch drops that I'm curious to know, what kind of people do you look for when you're going for streamers? Like, are you going for someone that resonates with the type of content that you like? Are you checking out new people? How do you engage with the Twitch drops? Because I'm very curious from a standpoint of what does Rare hope to achieve with this. They've already got their partners, and these Twitch drops have been coming on a regular cadence, and they tend to be recolors, but there has to be something that is in it for them outside of just pure engagement, because any content that they put out is a way for them to drive engagement. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I've noticed that with the Creator Crew program, that seems to have a kind of stagnated. And the reason I bring this part of it is me kind of slowly segueing into the commendations. In the commendations section, we have an entire Creator Crew section, and unlike Arena, it isn't closed off. It's still open and available for anyone to participate in. And with Hilarious most recently joining up on the streaming front, they've achieved all of their Creator Crew commendations. But there's nothing really driving people to do anything with those. And I wonder if during the lulls right now, is we're kind of, as I'll be getting into, because I want to talk about that, should Rare really try to kick that back up? Should they try and take some time to focus in on the Creator Crew program and try and build different levels of partners? Obviously, they've got the legendary partners that they have that are their biggest draws to the game. You know, they've got the 1,000 views all the time. They're well over 500 viewers on a regular basis anytime they stream. They've got lots of attention, and Rare goes to them for a lot of their communication for different projects and things like that. But then you have people that are aspiring partners, and then people that are just regular partners. And there's a lot of partners, and I don't think that there's enough people on the CM team to really give attention to everyone out there. But there was a dream that the Creator Crew program would be a kind of a learning platform, or a step stool up for Twitch streamers who were looking to get into the partner program. And I'm wondering if that is something that Rare should go back and kind of focus some time into, to really try and help flesh out some of those commendations, add some different ones, see if there are things that can draw attention, and then build cosmetics to show off the people that have earned some of those kind of commendations. Because right now there's really not a whole lot for them. So just a thought I had thinking about it as I was looking at the Twitch drops and thinking about, you know, what Fuzzy had posted this week, and kind of talking about, you know, how are people engaging with this content, and if this content is worth driving from Rare's perspective. And if it is, why haven't they done a whole lot to really feel like they are continuing to enrich the landscape to get new partners and to give those people an opportunity to really shine and stuff? And really kind of goes back to the idea of how I miss the weekly streams. Now, a lot of the folks over on the Sea of Thieves TV section, they work hard on trying to make some really engaging content. And we saw some fantastic content recently with the community weekend and the stuff that they were doing there. They've done a great job of making things, spotlighting things, and trying to draw attention to that. But it goes without saying that a lot of the people that come together for those types of things, it is like herding cats and trying to get them set up on the path to be able to all kind of coordinate with each other on dates and times and stuff like that. Especially given one of the interviews that I'm setting up in the future here, I'm gonna have to take a half day off work to be able to get this interview scheduled out and to get it recorded, which means that it's really tough to work, especially I think for a studio that is set in England in BST time or British Standard or British summertime. I think it's summertime, going off memory here. Versus like GMT, and then have to work with a lot of folks that are over in the United States. And if I'm being honest, I definitely sense that a lot of the folks that are partnered with Rare, that have been partnered with Rare, all live on the East Coast. And correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know if there are a handy few people out there that are on Pacific Coast time that are streaming in Twitch partners. I would love to find more people around my time zone to check in on, to watch and support and stuff, because I feel like there's a certain amount of time that the devs can communicate with people, and that it's a lot harder for those of us on the Pacific Coast to really be able to engage with the community team, which makes me, wonder why Rare hasn't worked with Microsoft to have more active community members that work for Microsoft in this case, but on behalf of Rare, to really kind of keep content flowing, even for those of us that are on the West Coast of America, which also, makes it a little bit easier for those that are even further west than I am to be able to engage with that content. Because I know lots of folks that are over in Australia and New Zealand who are completely ignored most of the time when it comes to streams. It's very hard for many of them to be able to get attention and get notice from Rare themselves. But a lot of it comes down to how much time in a day they have, who can they get in contact with, and how long is that cycle, or how much support can they give to those people given the difference in time zones. So am I grasping at straws? Is this something that doesn't really seem to really be like an issue? Am I making it up in my mind? I very well could be, and I'm not. I'm more than happy to be wrong about this, because I would love to learn about some of the streamers that you all watch, that for sure are on this side of the Rocky Mountains, because I really love a lot of the people over here that I've met personally, just from the small bit of SOT stuff that I've ventured into on our coast, but people like Curio and Asylum are some of the few standouts that I know of, but most of them are not people that I know that are on the West Coast. So I would love to get in touch with some of them, talk to them, see how they're doing, see what it's like, see what their experience is, to talk to Rare about that and be like, hey guys, hi, flag waving over here. We want love. We want attention. We love attention. As you can probably assume, we live on the West Coast. So weird kind of tangent, but I wanted to kind of kick this off as a stepping stool or an olive branch, whatever you want to call it, to see if we can get some more conversation going for streamers that are not getting the spotlight that you think deserve the spotlight, especially just after coming off of the Sea of Thieves community weekend. I saw a lot of folks get their hats, but no one that I knew that was local to me. And I feel like that's a miss. And I wonder if it's because of time zones or something else. Next up on today's docket, I wanted to bring up the fortunes, the Fate of Fortunes stuff, the whatever you want to call it, the Voyage of Destiny. I wanted to bring up FOFs. I wanted to know, where are you all at with your fortune chests? How many have you gotten? How many have you turned in? How many have you lost? And also the Reaper's Bounty and Reaper chests. Are those easier? Have you been engaging with the Fort of the Damned? Is that how you're mainly getting them? Are you finding them out in the wild and taking them to the Reaper's hideout? Currently, I've only had the good luck to be able to get 4 chests. One of them was one where I got it solo, and then the other ones were ones where I had help, or we had stumbled upon a fort and managed to get the chest for ourselves. And with those 4, it was a really good experience at each and every one. So I'm really enjoying the reignition of adventure mode after having a full season of dives and no one being on the ocean. I've really loved the attention that the FOF and the Fort of the Damned has earned, and it's definitely something that I wanted to address, because as I was looking at kind of Twitter in general, I noticed that Sea of Thieves had tweeted out that if you've been playing over the last weekend, they've been giving away the voyage for the Skull of Destiny. And it's something that originally they posted that it was going to be available for everyone. They said to mark the Fort of the Damned being beaten 200,000 times so far in Season 9. Just in Season 9, they're giving everyone a free Search for the Skull of Destiny voyage. Just play between now and 10 a.m. UTC on April 11th to get yours, plus enjoy the stunning artwork that they had, which was a really beautiful piece of artwork with Grey Morrow just absolutely destroying some pirates at the Fort of the Damned. And then they also posted another one that said, in case you missed it, setting sail between now and 10 a.m. UTC on April 11th, we will give you a free Search of the Skull of Destiny voyage if you don't already have one, giving you a shortcut to activating the Fort of the Damned. Just keep an eye on the horizon if you decide to tackle the fort. And I wanted to kind of reach out and see, where's everyone at, because I'm at 4 chests of fortune turned in, and I'm at 20 for the Reaper's Bones and Reaper's Bounties turned in. Those have been significantly easier to get, I think, since this update. And I think that the Skull of Destiny is something that a lot of folks will work on, and it's a great way to shortcut your way to getting those Fort of the Damned completions done, because you do need to get a whole bunch of them done, and especially 10 if you want to get the cosmetics for like the jacket and I think the makeup. I think I'm around, gosh, what am I at? I feel like I'm around 20 or 21. I can't remember offhand where I'm at, but I still have a lot to do. And to be able to get those done a lot faster, I really enjoy. And I think that the change to the skeletons being one color per wave just helps kind of expedite that process. So I'm not too worried about that, but very curious. Where's everyone at? Have you gotten the fortune cosmetics? Have you gotten the weapon set or the sails and the livery sets and stuff like that? Because I know a lot of folks were starting to run in and question whether or not the Fort of Fortunes were actually cycling. And it really kind of comes back to the idea that a lot of folks are not doing the other events to try and push through the cycle of world events. So if you feel like you've been sailing for a while and you haven't run into a Fort of Fortune, I would encourage you, go do the other world events. Go try and knock those out, because the faster those get knocked out, the better the RNG is going to be that you will run into a Fort of Fortune. I had the misfortune of logging onto a server tonight to look at some stuff. I wanted to check some commendations and take a look at my ledgers, which I'll get into in a minute, and see what was going on. And as soon as I logged in, I kid you not, a Fort of Fortune horn went off, and I looked, and it was at the fort that was right next to Daggertooth. It was Skull Keep. It was right there. I was like, no one was there. I grabbed the best handful of pockets I could get. filled up my pockets. I jumped on the ship that I had spawned in on, that I had no intention of actually even leaving the port. I just wanted to check my commendations and ledger positions. And I sailed over there, and the storm was rolling in. And just as I got there, I was anticipating the cannons to start going off. And I was like, why aren't the cannons going off? That's so strange. And I kid you not, the fort had despawned right before I got there, like right before I got into the banner. And I was so bummed, because I was like, well, first off, I was like, this would have been a free fort. And I was really tempted to call someone in and be like, hey, I need someone to come help me clear this out real quick. I don't have a whole lot of time because I still got to record a podcast. I was just coming in to check out some stuff. Can you help me? And as soon as I get there, nothing. I hop on the island. I go into the vault. It's completely open. It's empty. There's nothing going on there. And I'm like, man, if this was ever a sign that I needed to stay focused on what I was doing and not get caught up in a fort of fortune, this is it. So I ended up grabbing a keg, because the deed today was to sail a mile and to turn a keg into the merchant. So I grabbed a keg, I grabbed the sloop, I headed up to Galleon's Grave. I turned that in, got my 4,000 gold, and went downstairs into the Pirate Legend Tavern to check out some of the cosmetics and stuff, and see what I'm looking forward to working on and stuff like that. But man, sometimes it just happens and stuff. So hopefully you all managed to get your Search for the Skull of Destiny voyage. Hopefully you all logged into Sea of Thieves at some point this weekend, and you all managed to get your Twitch drops so that you could start working on that Eastern Sapphire set. And really, I'm curious how many of you are running into issues with this, because I feel like there's a few of you out there that are having troubles getting these drops. And it's not anything that's being done wrong on your part. For whatever reason, your account is just got that bad luck of not receiving the cosmetics after you've put in the due diligence to actually get those. So if there's ever a time where if Rare could ever take a look and put out a nice little video or a nice little like how-to guide or some things to troubleshoot, if that isn't something that's readily available, I think it would be great to have some of that, because I feel like there's many folks that are running into issues where they have to wait that 72 hours before they put in a ticket to see, like, you know, hey, I was here, I was there, I remember what I was doing, but I didn't get the thing. I would really like to get that thing, because it's a shame when folks, you know, they work hard, they put in the effort, and they don't get rewarded the way they should. And unlike Sea of Thieves, Twitch drops and voyages and things like this, those are supposed to be guaranteed. You know, it's yours if you put in the work. It's not like loot, you know, where it's not yours till you turn it in. You know, they're putting in the effort. So hopefully there's something that Rare can do to kind of shore up some of the tickets that they're having with that, because I feel like I see it every time there's a Twitch drop, every time there's a login bonus, someone misses out on it, not because they didn't try, but because the systems in place are just not working in their favor. So I brought it up, and I wanted to touch on it again. There's new ledgers, and in fact, there's only 20 days left in these ledgers. So please make sure you're taking some time, go back, throw up the emissary, and start working on those if you haven't already. The that is, of course, if you're interested in what they're actually giving away. So for first place, for each of the different ledgers, for each of the different trade companies, is a tankard. It's a tankard. It's a mug. You get a mug. It's a themed mug. It's a themed mug for the trade company that you were representing, and it's you know, it's a tankard. You get a tankard. But it's okay, because the second place position, which is the tier down from the top one, it's a fishing pole. The really well themed fishing pole that you can use for fishing while representing the trade company that you worked hard to get the ledger position for, and have that themed fishing pole. So that, you know, if you wanted to, you could totally go out there, have a really fantastic adventure, fishing and drinking in theme for the trade company that you worked all month to stay in the top ledger position for. I got I hope that we get something a little more interesting. We've been getting some of the different equipment lately for the ledgers, and I like the ledgers. I think the ledgers are a good carrot on a stick for Sea of Thieves fans out there. If we want to do something and we want to work on something, we have no clue what we want to work on. The ledgers are a fantastic way to be able to jump on the game, say, okay, what are we doing tonight? Well, we've got to get our ledgers done. Okay, what do we need to do? All right, well, let's focus on merchant, because no one ever likes to do merchant. So we'll get those knocked out. All right, cool. What kind of merchant do we want to do? Well, I still need to get keys unlocked for the cabins, for the lost shipments, and I still need to get manifests turned in. Perfect. We'll work on those. We'll get our emissary knocked out on tonight, and then we'll swap to something else for tomorrow or the day after or next weekend, whenever you play, kind of thing. So I do like them. I really do like the ledgers, but we're at the fishing pole and tankard part. And I'm glad they're there. I'm glad they're there. It's free cosmetics. It's a trade of time for something that you would normally be doing anyway. You just have to focus on a specific emissary. But when that emissary is an emissary that you don't really enjoy, and the reason I bring this up is because what was it, 2-3 weekends ago? I can't remember. I think it was 2 weekends ago. It was the end of the month, and I was sailing around and I saw a whole bunch of reapers, and the reapers were just going out and doing reapery things. And by reapery things, I mean people at the end of the ledger, at the end of the month, trying to get their reaper in because they don't reaper during the month, and they were just trying to get some PvE content done so that they could go turn it in, get into the top tier at the end of the month, because that was when they decided to throw out the reaper flag and deal with the reaper heat per se. And it really does kind of come back to what are we doing this for? We're doing it for cosmetics, obviously, but we're also doing it as a carrot on the stick to be able to work on other stuff. So if you are excited about fishing poles and tankards, then the good news is that you will be able to get one from each of the trade companies for the ledgers for this season, the whole season. Hopefully, if you've been taking a bit of a break from ledgers, you have some other stuff to work on, you can get a couple of these knocked out this season, because you've got 20 days left. And the reason I say a couple is because right now we have just finished up probably one of the biggest months for Sea of Thieves. It was March, and March was the 5th anniversary for Sea of Thieves. For all intents and purposes, the entire month was a celebration for Sea of Thieves. And now that the party's over, I'm left standing in a room with streamers and spilt beer and, pieces of cake on the ceiling. And I'm looking around thinking, this is a lot to clean up. What's going to happen tomorrow? Because right now, if you guys are looking at Sea of Thieves and you're thinking, okay, I've got ledgers to do, that's fine. It's beginning of the month. I don't really know if I care about fishing poles and tankards, but if I do, I'll get them done anyway, because it's something I need to collect, because it's just like Twitch drops. But what is next for Sea of Thieves? What is coming after the 5th year anniversary? We still have a whole rest of this season to talk about for content. And that's what I was kind of thinking about when I was thinking about this episode, is like, I don't know what I'm going to be talking about. There's nothing going on. It's just ledgers and then fortune stuff. And that's it. So I wanted to bring up the fact that we're still waiting for an understanding of when we're going to be getting Adventure 12, which, if you don't remember, is a Dark Deception, the departure of the Captain Briggsy storyline that we had started last season and got up to the second part of that story. And the third part of that story is supposed to be us going into the Sea of the Damned to rescue Briggsy to find the cure for being a skeleton. We left on such a cliffhanger, and we have absolutely no idea when we're getting back to it. But we've heard from the podcasts, from Rare, from the devs themselves, that they are focusing on the Dark Deception and that it's going to involve Ramses. And we don't have a date for this at all. So I'm hoping, I'm saying this, I'm speaking it into existence, speak your dreams if you want them to come true. I'm hoping that Rare will release this week information about when the next adventure is coming. They will kick up the marketing for this. We will get a date and we will get a bit of a teaser about what it's going to be so that we can understand what this Dark Deception is about. Does it involve the glowing rat that we've seen in a lot of the posts that they've been putting out? Many of you know that Falcor is out there. He's on it. The AIU is out there on it. Everyone is trying to understand the significance of this little rat that is all over social media in their posts. They put out the little teasers and stuff, find the rat in the image kind of thing. And I want to know if that is tied to the mystery or if that is tied to the Dark Deception, because it's leaning more towards the mystery side of things. But without that understanding, without that context, we're missing. It's left to our own devices. And that's usually when we are at our worst, because we're coming up with thoughts, theories, expectations on what is going to happen with Sea of Thieves. And many of us don't necessarily need this to be the driving force for us to play the game. Many of us play the game for the sake of playing the game with our friends to be able to play the game. But there's many of us that really do love the lore aspect of Sea of Thieves, that really do love the story that's being told. And to not have a lighthouse giving us a beacon of light to give us a direction to head towards safe land in the middle of a storm, we're left with our wheels spinning, with holes breaking into our hull and water seeping in both from top deck and from below, unsure of what we're going to be getting in the future. And with us getting closer and closer towards the canceled E3, and knowing that Xbox does plan on having an event in 2 months. They plan on having an event that is an Xbox event, but also a Starfield special Bethesda event. And I'm constantly thinking, like, does Rare have something for that? If they do, then it's going to be a long wait. And how much can they really pump out as far as continuing to keep players engaged between now, after the 5th year anniversary, and whatever that new, cool, exciting thing is that's going to get shown off at E3. Now, I'm 100% speaking to rumor here. I have no idea what they're doing. I don't know if they're doing anything. I have a hunch, and I hope that I'm right about the hunch, because I'm hoping that the interview that I did with Davram from Pirate Talk Radio that just came out this last week, that the conversation that I had with Miles Dompierre for IGN about that big marketing thing, I hope that the reason the cinematics have slowed down for the adventures is because Rare is quietly trying to gear up for something big. And I'm putting a lot on Rare to own up to that. And I recognize that, because they don't have to, and there's nothing that they've suggested that is going to be something like that. This is all purely speculation on that. But I wanted to kind of address this because we don't know what's going on with the adventures. They've broken all of the cadence that they've kept to for so long that's done really, really well for them. We don't know what's going on with the mystery. I feel like the mystery, I don't know if it's begun, and if it has begun, it's begun to start to really kind of lose its way. It's starting to fall into that territory that the first mystery did, where it's being prolonged so much and it's not being done in game that people either aren't aware of it, haven't seen the teases, or don't care because there's nothing impactful going on in the game yet. So I wanted to bring up Adventure 12. I wanted to bring up The Legend of the Sunken Kingdom, because I don't know if any of you may or may not remember. If you remember, you get points. 10 points to Sea of Thieves fans out there. If you remembered what The Legend of the Sunken Kingdom voyage is, where it's sold, and why it's important. Now, this is a bit of a bad thing. I shouldn't be doing this, but I am kind of messing with folks on this. Some of you out there are thinking, Logun, why are you bringing up the Legend of the Sunken Kingdom voyage? It has absolutely nothing to do with what you all were talking about. And if you remember this, then kudos to you, because you're exactly right. The Legend of the Sunken Kingdom voyage has absolutely nothing to do with adventures or with the mystery. And the reason I bring it up is because in the game, if you go buy this, there's not really anything telling you why you should buy this voyage, but it is definitely there, and it is definitely a part of what Lorena offers. And the reason I bring this up is because there's no context surrounding this. It is something that you have to be able to get all of the Sunken Kingdom journals. And once you've read all 30 of the Sunken Kingdom journals, you can go and buy this voyage from Lorena for 50 doubloons to start the adventure. I'm not going to spoil it for those of you that may not have actually gone and do it, but effectively it does deal with specifically the history of Sea of Thieves. It opens up a lot of lore, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the last mystery that we got or any of the adventures that we've had in the past. And the reason I bring it up is because one, it was a bit of a ruse, but two, the what you actually have to do to uncover the mystery for the game, which is a hidden commendation, unless you actually go and follow a guide on how to do it, because I guarantee you it was so foobar when they actually did it that unless you followed a guide, unless you knew what to pay attention to, no one really was able to really kind of like AIU was able to work this stuff out and figure it out all together at the end. And if it wasn't for them and a few other people out there really working hard to try and piece together what we had found, then none of us wouldn't have been able to complete the mystery for the last thing. And that mystery is still in the game. It is still in the game that you can go and complete now. And we still don't have a resolution to the end of that mystery. And much like the Legend of the Sunken Kingdom voyage, there's so much that Rare likes to do to engage players that, for all intents and purposes, feels like it is a one and done. And what I mean by that is you engage with it in the world at the time that it's active, and then once it's done, just like an adventure, it is gone. It is disappeared from the complete realm or purview of anyone playing the video game. And unless you go and seek that stuff out specifically, if you visit Rare Thief and you troll through their guides, you may stumble upon it and understand a little bit of context about it. Then there's really nothing in the game that tells you about this stuff. And it's not quite as cool or unique as the little skulls in the game that are hidden around the world that have a little gold key that were tied to a very specific a kind of a treasure hunt, or I can't think of the word right now, but it was tied to stuff that they were doing at conventions to drive players to actually go and complete like the mystery that they had created, right? So I'm hoping, and this is kind of a plea at this point, I'm hoping that Rare looks at what is going on right now and sees that this is starting to trend a little too closely to what happened with the first mystery, where the social edge of this, the social side of the engagement that they're looking to do with the mystery is great for the lore hounds out there that have the time to be able to dig into these posts, to open up the 4K image and scour over it looking for a tiny little rat and try and piece together why the rat is important for this post. Does it pertain to the first letter of every post and how those letters spell out a phrase? Like it's getting to be so tough for the average Sea of Thieves fans to be able to enjoy this content that I fear that this is going to be something that is just going to fall by the wayside, just like what happened to DeMarco. No one's going to find out, and his death was so kind of it was not showcased or celebrated because it was trying to be so coy or clever about what they were doing with the game. And I appreciate their desire to do stuff like that, but I also have to look and say, like, how many people engaged with this? Because if it was less than 2%, I can tell you what the community is going to think about it. But that being said, we still have no clue what's going on with the mysterious rat. We don't know if it pertains to the adventure. I hope that what Rare does is that they realize that if you want players to engage with these types of mysteries, there have to be cognizant breakpoints where things are achieved and then reveals are told. The murder mysteries that work out the best, the ones that make the best movies, are the ones where you don't know what's going on for most of the film. You see little things and you know, everything is laid out in front of you. It's all visible for you to see. And it takes one person it takes the detective in the movie to go back and point to all of the little red flags. And they do this great little montage where it's like, and then this person did this, and then that person did that. And as a result, the gun was left here. And it wasn't because you did, you know, and you have someone walking you through the mystery and uncovering all of the little clues that tipped the detective off to understand like who did it. And unless you have that with a mystery that you're able to showcase in like a video, I would very recommend a video that comes out by Rare to really kind of say like, this is what happened in the first part of our mystery. Stay tuned for next episode of Dragon Ball Z, you know, whatever you want to call it. Like have that episode going there, so that way people can get caught up, so that you can track it, so that you can have the mystery, let people enjoy the discovery aspect of it, but then come in with a recap to say like, this is what happened on the last episode of Sea of Thieves Mystery, and really kind of punch it up and let people enjoy it, so that when the next one comes up, they'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot. I remember that we had no mystery and stuff. You know, you can keep it succinct, but really cater to the folks that don't have the time to really kind of engage with it, because then they may actually start to care more about it. They may start to actually get really driven by it. So it's a weird situation that we're in right now. And I genuinely think that the reason I'm talking about this today is purely because we don't know what's going on with Sea of Thieves. We have absolutely no clue. Everything is still a mystery. We have no understanding. The orb stream needs to come out and explain stuff to me as if I were a child, please. So yeah, that was what I wanted to. That was the main thing that I wanted to talk about today. Was going to be my stapler, and as well as talking about the Sea of Thieves mystery, because there's a lot of interesting stuff that I think everyone should be really paying attention to. If you're not, I don't understand. It's very clear. It's very prominent, and everyone should be able to see it. I see it. Everyone else should see it. This is not the Matrix Code. We should all be able to understand it. So I hope everyone is doing that. If not, hey, you know what? Sea of Thieves is on sale. Congratulations. It's 50% off. Go pick up Sea of Thieves if you haven't bought it. If you're subscribed to Game Pass, you're probably good. You're probably good. Just enjoy Game Pass. There's a lot of great content coming out on Game Pass, but you know, keep it for Sea of Thieves, obviously. Before I jump into the last thing, I really gotta let everyone know that I am very curious how everyone is enjoying the latest Pirate Plunder Pass cosmetics, because if I'm being perfectly honest, I've had some really good compliments on the Prosperous Privateer pants, or the PPPs, and I gotta say that the stripy pants do it. They do it for me. I really love it. I think they did a fantastic job with these, and I want more of this. So please, if Rare, whatever it takes to get more of these piratey things in the game, just throw them in, man. Start giving me the skull and crossbones bandanas. Start giving me the gold earrings. Give me the gold teeth if that's an option for a curse or something. I don't care. Find ways to get more of these piratey cosmetics, the quintessential like comic book or movie type cosmetics. Throw them in there, because the Prosperous Privateer set is perfect. I love it. The legendary Bone Hunter jacket is a perfect pirate legend reward at level 100. I was so pleased when I got that. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I want the full set. I want all the legendary Bone Hunter stuff. Just put it in the game in the Pirate Pass. I will put it. I'll get it. I promise. I will get it. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk on before the final topic is for forts. For Forts of Fortune, we'll just say Forts of Fortune for all intents and purposes. When is the appropriate time to remove the kegs? because I feel like this is, it may be a little bit of a contentious thought. I feel like everyone would be on the same page about this, but it came to my attention that there's not exactly a right or wrong time, but there is an assumed time. And I think the assumed time should be the last thing out of the fort. Now, if anyone has a good reason why you should remove the kegs from the fort, please let me know. But for all intents and purposes, I'm curious to hear, when should you remove the kegs from a fort? I remove them at the end. Some people, like other people that I won't mention for the sake of their safety and their DMs not blowing up, remove them at the start. So I'm curious. I want to hear about this. All right. The last thing I wanted to talk about is something that deals with accessibility. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I wanted to talk about something that I found out this weekend was going on. And it pertains to Sightless Kombat. And many of you probably know Sightless by name by now. Sightless was in the documentary for a Sea of Thieves Voyage of a Lifetime. No, Voyage of a Lifetime? The Voyage of a Lifetime. I think that, I don't know why my brain's, it's late. It is late, folks. I don't know if you guys know this, but it is like after midnight and I'm recording this. I'm getting this out in hours at this point. But Sightless Kombat, who was featured on the Sea of Thieves documentary, did a stream this weekend with Behaving Beardly, who many of you probably know for sure who Behaving Beardly is. But they did a fantastic partnership in a Twitch stream, bringing awareness to game developers for those with sight loss through a new partnership with RNIB, which, if you don't know who RNIB is, it is a UK-based charity. It is actually the leading charity for sight loss, and it stands for the Royal National Institute of Blind People. And obviously, it kind of makes a little more sense now why Sightless Kombat is working in part with them to bring more awareness to developers that actually talk about sightless or loss of sight, or the different types of sight loss that can occur with people. And the reason why I'm bringing it up to you is because Sea of Thieves is a uniquely positioned game that I think has done great strides with the help of Sightless and the devs to work on building more accessibility for Sea of Thieves in particular, to make it easier for those of you who have sight issues. Now, Behaving Beardly and myself both share that we have sight issues. Nothing compared to what some people have, but both of us wear glasses. And in fact, I'm willing to bet that many of you wear glasses, or contacts for that matter, or may have actually gotten LASIK. I personally can't have LASIK. I got the consultation. I wasn't able to get LASIK done. Very, very sad about that, but I am still fortunate enough to have decent vision. Now, my vision's really bad and it gets worse every few years, it seems like, but it is nothing compared to the things that people deal with on a regular basis when they have diseases or cognitive, not cognitive. I can't think of what it was. They had some really good names for the different diseases that was going on. But to bring it back to the stream, the RNIB, or the Royal Institution for Blind People, had a really cool thing that they did for Behaving Beardly, where they got an opportunity to give him overlays that helped kind of represent some of the main different diseases that affect people with sight loss. And it's really interesting to see like how hard it is for you to see with some of these overlays. Some of them completely clouded up the screen. Some of them only gave you like a little pinhole vision. Some of them gave you no vision in the center of your eyes. It was just a big dot in the middle, and then you had cloudy vision on the outside with like black spots. And it was one of those things that really made me realize, like, and Behaving talked about this, or Beardly talked about this in the stream too, while Sightless was kind of helping people understand like how he's able to play Sea of Thieves with the help of other people, some of the accessibility features that have been put in. And it was really great to see Meanafaerie as well as XboxMik29 from the Keelhauled community and their own communities, jumping in to help Sightless and his community to help kind of showcase just how difficult even going from one place to another on a ship can be for folks that have sight loss or vision impairments. And I wanted to draw attention to it first off because thankfully it was a bit of a downtime and it was a good opportunity for me to do some accessibility chat because I love talking about accessibility, which, by the way, Gamers Outreach, Able Gamers, Special Effect, tons of fantastic charities out there that are working really hard to not only breed the culture that needs to be in place at development studios to try and start building games with accessibility in mind from the get-go, but also trying to enrich the lives of those that need accessibility in their lives to be able to play games. Sourscar, perfect example of someone who is using accessibility tools on a daily basis to play video games and has built up a fantastic community around them to help support them with that. So getting into the stream, I wanted to let you all know that it was beautiful to see Behaving Beardly really in just really kind of connect with this and to really recognize the privilege where privilege is. Not to say that, you know, like he doesn't appreciate it in general, but it was really, I hate using this phrase, it was eye-opening to see just how difficult it can be for folks with certain sight loss diseases and to know that they still desire to play video games and to know that this is something that can still affect many of us, that many of us aren't free from ever not having to deal with this. Like there's accessibility that comes that is temporary. There's conditional, and there's also permanent. And to know that there's points where we may go from having good vision to poor vision to no vision at any given time in our lives. Not only is a kind of sobering thought, but it is also nice to know that there are champions out there on the entire spectrum that are working towards trying to make sure that at least at the very end of the day, the entertainment that we engage with gaming is something that can be done by all, that can be enjoyed by all, and that there's people working on it. So I wanted to showcase this because it was great to see Beardly talking about how much of what he did during that stream was all muscle memory. It was having hours and hours and hours of sighted experience in the game to be able to understand what's going on. And after watching it, one of the things that really did kind of stick out in my mind, one of the things that constantly was nagging at the back of my brain was the fear of not knowing what your actions were impacting. And what I mean by that is I was watching Beardly try and take out some skeletons that are on a beach. Now, if many of you have watched Sightless's streams, you may understand what I'm getting into here. But for those of you that don't know, that might just listen to the show and you have no idea what Sightless Combat's streams are like, they typically go out and do Order of Souls missions. They usually round up the skellies for each wave and they bring them to the beach next to the galleon that they have parked on the side of the island, and then they direct Sightless not only to the cannon but also to the cannonballs, and then line up the cannon so that he can get a good bead on where the beach is and where the skeletons will be. Then they fire a couple shots and adjust based on the cannonball marker that's on the beach, whether or not they hit the skeletons or what's going on there. They kind of tweak it from there to help guide and give Sightless an opportunity to engage with the content, right? He wants to be able to play the game. He wants to be able to kill skeletons. This is a way for them to kind of do this. And to see Beardly with very little sight, especially ahead of him, being told the directions that he needs to do to fire a shot, and to fire a shot and not have any information responded to or any information given to him that he can discern from himself whether or not the hit worked, whether he killed skeletons, whether he missed, like what happened. Like no information in the game really relays what's going on unless you're fighting like gold skeletons and you can hear that ka-thunk. There's really not a lot of feedback that you can get from visual or from audio or physical feedback to let you know that what you did is right. And one of the scariest things that I noticed was the fear of not knowing what you were doing was either a positive or negative impact to the overall state of what the crew was working towards, right? You have to rely on other people giving you information that is not in the game. And one of the things that kind of spurred out from this was the idea that the more accessibility tools that are in the game that reduce the need for other people to supplement that information. And what I mean by that is like knowing how well you're doing on navigating to a certain island, knowing how far away you have to go to get from the wheel to the capstan or over to the sails, what state the sails are in, like when they are finally pulled up to trim, and to have to try and beat in on that very specific audio cue if you can hear it over everything else that's going on, especially during combat. So many of us talk about how silent boarding is a plague on Sea of Thieves, and it's almost impossible to hear someone boarding your ship. Now imagine you can't see them either, and you know that someone is boarded. That is a scary thought. So having tools built into the game from the get-go helps address some of that, but having stuff retroactively put into the game after the case not only helps reduce the amount of external information that you need to be able to discern what's going on, but it also helps kind of keep people's mental state in a good place. Because I noticed too with Beardley, he has to deal with the fact that when there are too many voices going on in he is cognizant of the sheer number of people talking. And if you've ever been in a party chat where there's like 8 people, you know that it is almost impossible for you to get a word in half the time or to know who's talking to who. It's very, very distracting, and it's really tough. And for some folks, that can be as much as 3 people. That state can mess with you at a bare minimum of 2 people talking over each other. And I know how that feels. So it was very interesting to see, like, some people have very apparent accessibility issues, whereas some people, it's a lot more invisible. And it's the invisible ones that can be just as crippling as the physical or the visible ones, right? So I wanted to shout out RNIB. If you're in England and you have an opportunity to check them out, anything that you can do to help kind of either donate to their cause or help elevate this message to bring it to more attention for other people. I will have links in the show notes to their website, as well as to a couple of the posts that not only Sightless but Behaving Beardly put out, so that if you get an opportunity, you can share with other Sea of Thieves peoples, have a discussion about this. What are some ideas that you have? Because everyone, when it comes to accessibility, is always looking for ideas on what can be added to the game or what can be done to help improve the gameplay for other people. Because believe it or not, a lot of the stuff that you use in Sea of Thieves may actually be because it was put in there for accessibility options. You may not realize that, but it could be something. And if that helped you, think of how many other things are in the game or that could be brought to the game that would enrich your lifestyle and your gameplay experience, because it was an accessibility option that gave someone the opportunity to play the game when originally they couldn't. So that's going to do it for this episode. I wanted to leave off on that. I hope you guys all have a fantastic week. Hopefully we're going to get some news this week on what to talk about. Otherwise, it's going to be a really weird episode for next week, because I genuinely don't know what we're going to talk about. So if you have ideas, I love ideas. If you have characters that you want me to dive into for lore, definitely hit those up. I will try and get some research done on those so that we can talk about it and hang on to it for light weeks like that. And Pirates, I think that's going to do it. So thank you. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.
Have you ever wondered how deep the Elder Scrolls lore rabbit hole goes? Have you got a grasp of the basics and want to find out more about the universe? Written in Uncertainty is here to help you. We'll be mixing in philosophy, theology, and whatever other theory is useful with Elder Scrolls texts to untangle some of the biggest questions in the series, like what are dragon breaks, how does Chim work, where did the Dwemer go, and more. Check us out at writteninuncertainty.com or find Written in Uncertainty on any podcatcher. Thanks for listening, and catch you later in the Grey Maybe of Tamriel.
In a world where solid-state electronics and vacuum tubes are still meta, people never stopped loving atomic-powered everything. A chosen 500 stepped inside a subterranean vault to be spared the nuclear horror of the inevitable Great War. 25 years later, they emerge after the fallout settles to retake Appalachia. Among them, two former rivals whose blood feud will tear West Virginia apart in their epic struggle for survival. Chad, a vault bro who has a strength of 15, an intelligence of 2, and is a complete wasteland dickhead. Simon, a complicated anti-hero who chooses light and hope, but accidentally becomes a cannibal and wakes up naked and afraid with a Scorch Beast queen after a date goes terribly wrong. What? I mean, it's a wild wasteland, right? This dark humor radio drama will have you driving off the road and crawling out from under the fallout. 2 men, 1 wasteland, and so many nukes. Chad, a Fallout 76 podcast, rated R, now streaming on your holotape player podcasty thing.